56 degrees. Could see a few showers west of St. Louis during the day on Friday, but that rain chance remains very low. Looks like a warm, dry weekend, too. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
News, analysis, and opinion.
One of the great days ever in civilization. Abraham Accords. I like to say it that way.
Abraham is fine. Abraham, however you want to call it.
If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. And I'm really good at predicting things. I've been right about everything.
If you want a Democrat that's going to call people Nazis or fascists, well, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm just going to be an independent voice.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis's #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com. When it's important to you,
what St. Louis is talking about,
it's on News Talk STL.
This is not how you run a country.
That's only because of the Democrats.
Because the Democrats won't do the right thing.
It relates to the well-being and the health of the American people.
News, analysis, opinion.
A gunman opened fire on the church in Grand Blanc, Michigan.
Suspect identifies as a combat veteran. This is highly premeditated from what we're seeing at this time.
101.9 and 94.1.
My talk station.
News Talk STL.
The time to rise has been engaged. You're better best to rearrange. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song. Your finest hour.
Hello and welcome to Thursday afternoon. Colombo and Company here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. I'm Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn, and we are going to get you the latest details about the historic ceasefire peace agreement that we had been talking about for, about a week now. And just when it looked like there was a stall and we weren't getting a bunch of information and, you start to worry about what's going to happen next. Big announcement late yesterday by the president. And we've got all the details of where we're at, what to expect next. The original peace plan was a 20 bulletin point document, and which had multiple phases. So we don't know that what Hamas agreed to is exactly those 20 points, but we do know some details. We do know there was some negotiations, so we're learning about if there are any differences between that original peace plan and what has ultimately been agreed on. So we'll get you the details on that in just a moment, the latest of all the things that we know to this point. Also, we are another day into the partial government shutdown, which is becoming less partial as time goes on. White House today slamming Chuck Schumer's disgusting statements, their word, on the shutdown. He said something really dumb on a podcast. No, is this a podcast? Something called Punch Bowl News? I don't know what that is. Chuck Schumer went there, though, and said something dumb. We'll tell you about that in a little while. Oh, also, speaking of saying dumb things, new unearthed records expose Cori Bush's lie about the billions of dollars in funding that she delivered to the district while she was in Congress here in St. Louis. She, as we covered last week, made the announcement that she is going to once again run to try to regain her congressional seat in St. Louis, and has been campaigning and has been back out in the public Good for us once again. And she's been saying a lot of things and making some pretty bold claims that are, things that people can check on. If you say, hey, I, accomplished some piece of legislation or signed some bill or whatever it may be that brought this money in here or gave this to these people, there's records of that you can go and check. And what she is saying and what the records say are very different. So, very much looking forward to getting into that as well. We will talk to my co-hosts from the weekend, the guys from the Bluff City Outdoors Show. They're going to be with us in the 3:00 hour. And coming up here in less than 10 minutes, just a few minutes, we are going to be joined by Missouri State Rep Justin Sparks. So not only will we get into all of these national news and the local news about Cori Bush, but we'll also get a full update on what else is happening in Missouri news and politics. Following up that conversation that we had yesterday with Missouri political insider Rodney Boyd, we will get Representative Sparks' thoughts on what is coming next as far as Missouri lawmakers are concerned, and as we prepare for the next legislative session, which starts at the beginning of the year, which is, especially in political time, is right around the corner now that we're nearly into mid-October, which is crazy. But so we will talk to Representative Sparks about all of those local issues and get his thoughts on some of the national issues. I want to specifically talk to Justin about what he thinks about the National Guard troops, the situation in Chicago, obviously, that we have been talking a whole lot about over the last week or so, and J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson and all the things that they've said and accused the Trump administration of, and the lawsuits that they filed and things like that. And of course, this National Guard issue is not just isolated to Chicago. It's an issue that has gotten into the headlines all across the country. And with Justin also being a former police officer, I want to get his thoughts on what he thinks as a law enforcement officer, a local law enforcement officer, when the feds show up to support you. Is it a good thing? Does it complicate things? I'm going to talk to Justin about that and more when we get him on the line here in just about 5 minutes. But first, let's get you up to speed completely on what is happening with the peace deal. Hamas has agreed to a peace deal pushed by President Donald Trump to end the war in Gaza and return the hostages 2 years after the terrorist network attacked Israel on October 7th of 2023. Trump made the announcement on Truth Social saying, quote, "I am very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel, all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers," all in caps, that last sentence, unquote. Benjamin Netanyahu added in a statement that he released, that he said in Hebrew, which translates to, quote, "A great day for Israel. Tomorrow I will convene the government to approve the agreement and bring all our dear hostages home. I thank the heroic soldiers of the IDF and all the security forces. Thanks to their courage and sacrifice, we have reached this day. I thank from the bottom of my heart President Trump and his team for mobilizing for this sacred mission of freeing our hostages. With God's help, together, we will continue to achieve all our objectives and expand peace with our neighbors." Haven't heard a whole lot specifically, directly from the other side, but it was reported that Hamas leader Khalil Ahaya and other senior officials were seen smiling and shaking hands after with the other negotiators and officials in the room after leaving those negotiations yesterday. So that's the announcements. So what next? Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar offered new details today on the peace agreement with Hamas. He was speaking with Jennifer Griffin earlier from Fox News. Griffin asked the Israeli foreign minister about Hamas's role in Gaza moving forward, as well as Israel's plan for a military withdrawal. Saar said Israel is already moving to withdraw its troops behind the yellow line, in quotes there. That's the line that Donald Trump mentioned in his statement. And again, that was part of the original deal as far as phase one of this agreement is concerned. He said that the troops are already moving to withdraw its troops behind the yellow line, ceding 53% of Gaza's territory amid today's ceasefire. He said further withdrawals will be negotiated in later phases of the peace agreement. He also went on to say that in the meantime, Gaza will be governed by a council of local Palestinians along with input from President Donald Trump. He said the existing Palestinian Authority may also play a role, but only if it adopts certain reforms. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also today called for President Trump to receive the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts in this peace deal. And he is not the only one talking about that. And that will be a part of this story continuing in the coming days as well. As far as what happens after this initial first phase, those details are even less known. We know what the original deal was, but we don't know if any of that, how much of that was changed or negotiated during the peace talks. So here's a quick recap of what we know about how this will unfold. According to the original deal, all the hostages are supposed to be freed within 72 hours of an agreement being reached, though Hamas has signaled that this may be unrealistic, as it claims some of the deceased are believed to be buried under rubble. So we will have to see how that goes. Donald Trump has already made multiple statements about how, the hostages, alive and dead, need to be returned immediately. So I don't think that Hamas is going to be given a whole lot of time on that. Hamas appeared to agree to part of the original terms presented by the Trump administration, but it also signaled over the weekend that it had concerns over its disarmament and the trustworthiness, that's ironic, of Israel not to re-engage with its military ambitions once the hostages are returned. Specifics on various aspects of the original deal remain ambiguous, including the International Board of Peace that would be headed by Donald Trump and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, remember him, to oversee Gaza's administration and reconstruction, with Trump originally saying about that board that will basically control that area. He said that along with him and Tony Blair, that, quote, leaders from other countries would be named to that board at a later time, unquote. The original 20-point blueprint also said that the Gaza Strip for the foreseeable future will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. So that's the next steps that were largely laid out in the original deal. But we're still learning about the negotiations and what may or may not have changed. In the meantime, obviously, still a massive step forward for the entire world. And we hope that this peace holds. I know a lot of people are still cautiously optimistic because of history and what we've been through. But still a wonderful day for peace. And we will continue to keep an eye on all the details coming out of the Middle East and let you know more information as we get it. All right, we're going to switch gears. We are going to talk some local news and politics with Missouri State Rep Justin Sparks. He joins us next on Colombo Company.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values
Haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Craving authentic Cuban flavors? Come home to Havana 1961, where family recipes passed down through generations come to life in every bite. From chef and owner Mama Maria's famous Cuban sandwiches to classic entrees bursting with bold, fresh flavors, we bring the warmth and tradition of Havana right here to Missouri. Havana 1961, where great food, culture, and community come together. On Main, in St. Peter's, or at Havana1961.com. We welcome you like familia.
When water troubles strike, call the family you can trust. Tim Jones here for Ambassador Plumbing, serving our community since 2018 with 25 years of master plumbing expertise from Tim Morris and his handpicked team. Whether it's a simple faucet repair or a complete bathroom remodel, if water runs to it or through it, they do it. From residential service calls to commercial to new construction, the folks at Ambassador are your neighbors treating you like family. Ambassador Plumbing, where faith meets craftsmanship. 636-383-6932 or ambassadorplumbing.com. That's ambassadorplumbing.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. As I mentioned a moment ago, we will get back into some of the national and international news of the day as we continue through the afternoon. But right now, switching gears to Missouri, local news and politics. And to help us with that is Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks, who is on the line with us. Justin, and I'm going to start this conversation the same way I started with Rodney Boyd yesterday. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. It doesn't matter that we are still a couple months away from the new session starting. In today's world, news and politics never stop, whether it be nationally or here in the state of Missouri. We are just as busy as we have ever been. So as always, I appreciate your time, my friend.
Always happy to join you.
So, last week we had talked about the possibility of another special session happening before the end of this year, but I haven't heard. It seems like those conversations have sort of, maybe the push for that to happen has faded away, at least from what I've been able to tell. So, has that changed in the last week or so? Is there less right now in your mind? Is there less of a chance of that happening? And actually, the next time that we'll see you guys, gathered in the Capitol will be in January for the next session?
Yeah, as far as I've heard, it's just really been rumors. I think some folks would have liked to have seen another special just to because it's become so effective at tackling priorities.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to be honest with you. these legislators are human beings, believe it or not. I know sometimes I can't even believe that, but they are human, and a couple special sessions, and they really do try to get back with their family and spend a little time with the family before we have to go back to January and take care of constituent issues. So I'm not surprised that there's not much of an appetite to go back to Jefferson City right now.
Yeah, and I could see how some people, and this is a very good thing, you know, how I could see how there could be some people or at least a thought in some people's mind to, hey, let's do another one because of what you said a moment ago about how productive they have been. So you kind of can get caught up in that. Holy cow, we got the stadium thing done, and then we got redistricting done, and then we got IP reform done. We're on a roll. Let's keep this going. But then the reality of it is, as I mentioned a moment ago, I have to say it out loud to make myself believe it, but we're nearly in mid-October at this point. And, you know, it doesn't, it feels like Christmas and winter and New Year and all that is a very long way away. But on a political timeline, that's the blink of an eye. So to try to do another special session before the 2026 general session would be, politically and for the political calendar, that would be, an awful lot to try to get accomplished.
You know, it's funny because there is a vested special interest that wants to keep us out of the Capitol for as long as possible. And the reason for that is there's so many folks up there. We call them the swamp, but that's really what they are. They are the quintessential sludgery of our entire state. They are holdovers from years of institutional Democrat rule. And they would love to see Missouri go back to being Democrat-led. They would love to see us become like a Colorado. And when they see leadership in the House and the Senate particularly, and the governor's office starting to use the previous question motion, something that hadn't been done in 8 years, to really get GOP platform priorities done, and then taking victory laps, like with the governor saying, this is what the people want, this is what they're getting, in terms of initiative petition. That was outstanding, seeing the governor put out a video like that. And when the sludge sees that, Tony, they're like, okay, we need a hard reset. Keep these guys out of the Capitol. Let us do our garbage work behind the scenes to try to go back to the way things were. I guarantee you that's what they're doing right now.
Would it be fair, in your opinion, to say that, and with the caveat of not all special interests are bad, some special interests need to be advocated for and defended and fought for, certainly. But that said, is the influence of special interest groups the number one enemy of progress in general, in not just Missouri politics, but maybe politics across the country? Or is that over? Am I a little over dramatic?
No, it's not. It's our political system. Let's call it the political class, has been completely subverted and taken over. I do not. You can't overstate this. And the way that it works, in some states it's worse than others. In DC, it's its own animal. But in Missouri, it certainly is the case. You'll have legislators say things like, well, what did the lobbyists say? Let me call the lobbyists. Hold on. I mean, I've actually heard that. And then I laugh out loud. I'm like, listen to yourself. That's not who you serve.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, those legislators, that's all they hear all day long. That's it. Those are the people that are in their ear, right?
Yep.
These are the people chirping in their ear. These are the people that are constantly wanting meetings with them. These are the people that show up to their events to donate money. This is reality now. I'm not criticizing anybody other than calling out the truth, because that's what, I'm obsessed with the truth. And I believe that the truth can never be wrong, no matter how uncomfortable it is. So that is the truth. And so when you have people like some legislators that want to do the right thing, they want to serve the people, they don't want to listen to lobbyists, right? But then they hold, campaign launch events, and they hold fundraisers, and nobody shows up, or they make maybe $150 when you have the special interests that show up with $2,000 checks or way bigger checks to their PACs.
Yeah.
So what I try to tell the people is, guys, these folks want to do the right thing. You have a very, very few amount of legislators that are willing to refuse money. you know what I mean? Where the people aren't where these legislators are not gonna go actively solicit money, because especially in some of these bigger races, like Senate races and statewide races, they're very expensive. And so you have to show up for your people, is what I'm trying to say. And thankfully, we've started to see that happen across the state of Missouri. It's slow, but it is steady progress where folks, the grassroots, realize, okay, so we don't have thousands and thousands and millions of dollars, but what we do have is voices and we have numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about getting those numbers motivated to give those $100 checks. And that does make a difference. And so I'm still encouraged, but it's a slow process.
Yeah. And just to, I didn't mean to really go down the special interest road, but I think it's important that people, understand how things work. And that's what our conversations every week are. I think one of the things that we try to accomplish is, letting people know how things work behind the scenes and why, government behaves or processes things as it does. And there's no bigger influence, as we mentioned, than the special interests and the lobbyists there. And in Missouri, at least, you said, some states are worse than others. Some states have different systems. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in Missouri, one of the major players in that, or one of the main factors in that, is a lot of these lobbyists are former legislators, so they know the system. And if they're not, they're still people. They are people that have been working in Jeff City for decades in many cases. So a lot of times the lobbyists and the special interests know more about how things work on the other side of the aisle, as on the lawmaker side, than the lawmakers do, because a lot of times the lawmakers are, young, they're new to politics. And I mean, so the institutional knowledge is not on the side of the institution in Missouri. In many cases, it's on the other side. Is that a fair assessment?
No, that's exactly right. And Tony, I like to use myself as an example, because when I got there, I didn't know what I was doing. Right. I knew that I was, that I would tell the truth, that I would keep my promises to the people that elected me. And that's about it. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just do what I tell you I'm going to do. But I had no idea what special interests were. I didn't know which special interests were what, insurance lobbies, realtors. I didn't know any of this. OK, I didn't know I didn't know how the budget worked. I didn't know how people made money. I didn't know how people get around bid processes in the state. I didn't know about any of this. OK. And so that was one of the main motivators for me to help found the Freedom Caucus, was that we could take brand new legislators that didn't know any better and say, okay, guys, this is what you're going to figure out. This is how it really works. This is the system. And you don't have to compromise yourself. You don't have to find yourself between a rock and a hard place and not knowing, your butt from a hole in the ground. You can actually know how this works and stand true to your convictions and represent your people well. And we'll be there to support you. We'll form this group where we will protect each other, defend each other, and stay true to the people, and hook up legislators with their grassroots folks from their districts. And that's exactly what we've been doing. Now, the establishment and those entrenched special interests, they hate that, right? Because that means their power goes away. That means their influence goes away. And these special interests don't care if the Republicans are in charge or the Democrats are in charge. They could care less. There is no red or blue party, Tony. There's just green. It's green and it's dollar signs, and they don't care who's in power. If the Democrats were in power tomorrow, all those special interests would be like, wonderful, great, come on over. Nothing would change.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to change the entire dynamic.
I'm sitting here laughing to myself because I'm picturing the probably hundreds of Missouri lawmakers over the years that have, just been elected to their first term, and they're getting to know Jeff City, and they're getting, they're kind of moving in their office or whatever. And this is really great. And they won their election, and, they meet somebody, and, this person is so nice, man, this person's really nice. And he's always here, and he's just so friendly and helpful. And then, about 2 weeks into the process, that really helpful, friendly person that's been so great knocks on your door, hat in hand, and starts to, tell you about, what he needs. And then at that exact moment, that lawmaker goes, oh, that's why they were so nice. I mean, it's just, It's just
worse than that.
cycle.
It really is. It's worse. It's a vicious cycle. That's exactly what happens. Oftentimes, we as legislators are actually introduced to these people by folks that you thought that you knew. You thought you trusted this person, right? They're like, hey, this guy's great. I want you to meet this guy. This guy's really going to take care of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, you've got to go in. And I think that being a policeman helped me because I just didn't trust any of it. I thought they were all shysters. Turns out I was right. And I realized, like you guys, there's a very, very small number of 100% legitimate, authentic people, and they do exist. I love the people that come in your office and they're going to lay it out for you and say, I will never lie to you. I will always tell you the truth, and I will always tell you what I'm representing and both sides of it. Those people, at least you can have a relationship with because they're not going to BS you or you're trying to get something over. They're going to tell you both sides of the story. You're going to fall where you're going to fall. And that's what I try to tell folks is just try to stay ambivalent and objective if you can, and just realize that everybody is representing a special interest, and that's how they're making their paycheck.
Yeah.
Whether it's a good special interest or a bad one, you just got to realize they're trying to influence you. That's their job.
Talking to Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks, who I'm glad you mentioned your police background because Justin's sticking around with us for another segment, and so he'll be with us until the end of the hour, the top of the hour. I want to get into some of the national news, and I actually want to lean on your law enforcement background a little bit in a few minutes. But first, before we get off the topic of the coming session and local politics, I know that we had discussed that when the rumor was that there was the idea of another special session being floated a week or so ago, it was to address tax issues, personal property tax, and some of these other things, which, much like IP reform, has been a thorn in the side of voters and lawmakers. And one of these issues, it just gets talked about every year, but nothing ever happens with. And then finally, we break the cycle with IP reform. So it feels like, hey, maybe there really is a chance of making some progress on personal property tax or other things. Are those tax issues your biggest focus and the Republicans' biggest focus going into this next session, or are there other priorities that you have on that list before we get there?
So you're going to see a huge push for tax reform of all types: property tax reform, of course, property tax relief, income tax reform, and these are 100% going to be in our top three priorities. 100%. And the good thing is there seems to be across the board support for this within the Republican Party, including leadership in both houses and the governor's office. So I anticipate something very strong happening in the next legislative session, and something that I'm going to be particularly personally very much focused on is making Missouri safe again. And when you see what's going on around the country, Tony, when you see what's going around the world, and you realize the threats from even open source intelligence that we have, we know that Missouri is actually facing a very real, clear, and present danger, and we have to get ahead of it. We have to do what we can to get ahead of it and get resources in place. And so one of my main objectives is going to be creating the Missouri State Police Reserve, which will essentially be a volunteer force of retired and former law enforcement in the state of Missouri, for them to be mobilized in the event of a great natural disaster or terrorist attack to help supplement our law enforcement on the ground. And so you're going to see some initiatives like that are pretty significant, and hopefully we can provide a safe state and a refuge in times of chaos that we find ourselves right now.
I love that idea, and I am very excited to learn more and to help spread the word and endorse the creation of a force, of a department like that. And it's exactly kind of where I want to go with the next part of this conversation, because speaking of mobilizing law enforcement troops, that has been one of the big issues in the country, especially just right next door. And, many of our listeners in Illinois, dealing with what is happening up in Chicago with the National Guard being used, deployed to help with crime in cities around the country. So I want to get into that issue a little bit more as we continue the conversation with Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks. And also, before we leave Missouri politics completely, I want to get the representative thoughts on this new unearthed information, these new records that show that Cori Bush has already been lying. She's only been back in the race for Congress for a week, and she's already been caught lying. I want to fill you in on those details as we continue talking with Representative Justin Sparks next.
For podcasts, articles, and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
Today I've got an economic analyst who says the government shutdown really just doesn't matter.
Larry Connors USA.
Now weeknights 6 until 8
on News Talk STL.
Jamie Allman here, and I want you to hide out with me 10 minutes south of 270 in Gravois at the wonderful Hideout, the best burgers you're going to find anywhere in the land, and yet people still eat Dave's Chili right there at 90-degree temperatures. Music every day, it seems, people, on the weekends especially, and dinners and lunch served every single day of the week. The coldest beer and the best staff you're going to find, the Hideout right there in High Ridge.
Public schools, like public libraries, should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next-door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to change public schools. And it's a trend. Nationwide, the percentage of students going to their chosen public school has steadily increased. Assigning kids to schools based on their zip code is the old way. Open enrollment is a better way. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
This Labor Day, we honor the hard work that builds our families, our communities, and our country. At Snooze Mattress Company, we believe everyone deserves rest that restores, recharges, and rewards the work you do every day. Starting September 5th, save up to $725 on top brands like Tempur-Pedic, Serta, and Beauty Rest. Plus, experience Dream Mapping, our way of helping you find the perfect mattress tailored for you. Proudly local, grateful for your hard work, here to help you rest well, because if you don't snooze, you lose.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. I am Tony Colombo on the line with Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks. And Justin, I don't know if you have time or have been able to see any of the news surrounding former Congresswoman Cori Bush, who is now running to become once again the Congresswoman representing St. Louis. I don't think she's got a chance. I think it's kind of funny that she's doing this, but I'm here for it because it's gold when it comes to content and things to talk about on the show. So I'll take that every single time. And already she just made this announcement last week that she's coming back, and already not just the local media or local news calling her out, exposing some lies that she's been telling. This is getting some national headlines. I'll talk about it here in just a second, but just in general, how do you feel about, look, I will never underestimate the city of St. Louis and its ability to make terrible decisions at the ballot box. I mean, I'll never be surprised. It just can't be, because they've just, made, and the county too, in many areas. I'm sorry to say that, but with Sam Page and other things, but I truly believe that, that mandate that we've talked so much about since the November election, and the shift in politics that we have seen across the country, the backlash to some of the, the extreme progressive movements that took, such hold over the country during the Biden administration. I just don't see, even in St. Louis, I don't see voters wanting to return to Cori Bush or anyone like her. So I don't think she's got a very good chance. But how do you feel about voters? I know that's not your district specifically, but I know you talk to voters all the time. So do you feel like that even in a liberal city like St. Louis, could this progressive mindset still win?
Yes.
Yeah.
The short answer is yes. Unfortunately, this is what's sad. Not too many years ago, I would have said there's no way somebody like Cori Bush could win. She's not smart. She says stupid things. She says incendiary, idiotic things. She's obviously a ridiculous person, not serious person, right? This person doesn't belong in front of anybody talking about anything, okay? But that's not the case anymore. She was actually elected to Congress. So this is what's dangerous. I use that word very intentionally. We have a fringe on the left that doesn't care. They don't care. If she's willing to do outrageous things, say outrageous things, then that's good enough for them. And this is what has, especially in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, this is what we've seen. We've seen hundreds of thousands of people online expose their butt by saying ridiculous things about glorifying assassinations and political violence, political-based actual violence, and with no stop, with no end in sight. We have a candidate for Attorney General in Virginia that fantasizes about his political opponent being murdered and his opponent's children being murdered, apparently. Now, and that's not what's outrageous. Of course, that's terrible, reprehensible, right? It's the response to these idiots that is so troubling. Okay, what is so troubling is that you do not see condemnation of these comments. You do not see calls to drop out of the race or resign. You don't see that. You see Democrats circling the wagons because now we are seeing what ideology truly motivates them, which is the ends justify the means. Okay. And so what they think is, well, at this point, and I don't take credit for this, people much smarter than me have been talking about this now for weeks, is when you can't win at the ballot box, when you can't win in the arena of ideas, when you can't win at the front porches and the front doors talking to people, then you are left with no other alternative other than to try to kill people and silence their voice by physical force. That is where the Democrat Party is. That I think, and me personally, I think they've been there for a while, and now it's come to a head.
Yeah.
They are looking
They're finally
at the
being
total
exposed.
destruction of, yep, exactly. They are finally being exposed, Tony. And this is what we have to deal with as an institution, on an institutional level, meaning the government, meaning the party that's in power, meaning how do we actually deal with this in places like Portland? But it's coming here. It's coming here to St. Louis, and don't think it won't. This is going to be widespread across this country before this is over. And we have to decide, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, and that is why it's so important to reveal their lies when they are caught in them. And that is exactly what has happened in a new report from Fox News Digital, but that has also started to be picked up in other places as well. Former Representative Cori Bush of Missouri just launched her comeback bid, and she has claimed that she brought, quote, billions of dollars home to Missouri's first congressional district while serving in the House of Representatives during her first term. But public records reviewed by Fox News Digital and others tell a different story. During her failed re-election campaign last year, Bush's fundraising claims for St. Louis's skyrocketed from $41 million to $2 billion in less than a month. She's now saying things like, quote, I am proud to have delivered home over $2 billion and counting. She made that claim for the first time. She's made it multiple times now. Made that claim for the first time on April 19th of last year. But less than a month prior to that, in March of last year, she released her own campaign ad touting the $41 million she had brought back. So in a month, it went from 41 million to $2 billion. And I love this line. Her campaign has not responded to requests to explain the 4,778% increase.
Okay.
Wait, I got one more. Wait. One more part of this. While in Congress, Bush consistently voted against national defense authorization funding, which between February 1st, 2021 and May 1st, 2024 included nearly $49 million in Department of Defense funding for research at WashU, St. Louis University, and others, which are all located in St. Louis, of course. Bush's claim that she delivered more than $2 billion to her district seems to include all of that money. And also it includes money from other initiatives like the Joe Biden's $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill, which was passed. She was one of 6 Democrats that actually voted against that bill. So not only did she not bring in, obviously, anywhere near probably nothing, but definitely $2 billion. But some of the money that did come in that she's taking credit for are from programs and bills that she voted against. So she tried to stop that money from coming in unsuccessfully, and now she's trying to take credit for it. So it's even worse than just a lie. It's a double lie at the same time. I'm sorry, but I just think that is amazing. Your thoughts?
There's so many. Inflation, but I've never seen something like that, a 4,000% increase.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a person that is clearly unhinged. But here's the thing. All right, I'll ask you this question. We actually have to ask ourselves and seriously consider: is she lying, or does she not know her numbers? Okay, because it's very possible that Corey just doesn't know how to count. If she attended St. Louis City Public Schools, that's entirely possible, since those students are not at math grade level. And that's an entire another thing we need to talk about.
No
the failing schools in the city of St. Louis that no one ever seems to want to cover because of how embarrassing it is to Democrat leadership. But that is, in fact, reality. So we have to ask ourselves, is Corey Bush lying, or does she not know how to count?
Yeah.
Or maybe a combination of both.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I still don't think that she's got a chance of winning that seat back, but I am, it does help the show that she's back in the news, because it gives me more to talk about.
Yes, it does.
Justin, we only got a few minutes left. I wanted to ask you, with all the conversation happening about National Guard troops and federal agencies being used across the country to assist law enforcement and ICE agents and things like that. As a former law enforcement officer, we don't have time to unpack this entire issue, but just in general, as a local police officer, when the feds show up or are sent to support, is that a good thing? Does that complicate things? How do local law enforcement feel about things like this when the federal agents are sent in to be a part of a mission?
It's always very helpful, because just by their very presence alone, crime numbers go down. Boots on the ground mean crimes go down. That's just, it's very simple. Law enforcement is not rocket science. If you put more good guys in an area, then the bad guys go somewhere else. That's how it works. And so when the National Guard shows up, they can relieve huge amounts of resources so officers can do and focus on what they should be doing, which is violent crime response, right? And investigating violent crimes that actually make a difference. When the National Guard isn't there, then more resources have to be pulled off the street to do other things, administrative tasks. So absolutely, the National Guard, by their presence alone, enables and frees up law enforcement to do more of what they can do with the resources that they have.
Yeah.
And this is something that needs to happen. And I know Governor Kehoe feels the same way.
And I imagine that exact sentiment is what is behind your wanting to develop this new local reserve force, that if there's more good guys that can show up, more good guys, more boots on the ground, that will always deter crime. So I love that. I love to hear that program. I am very much looking forward to talking with you about that and learning more about that program and endorsing it as time goes on and we get closer to the next legislative session, which is right around the corner, believe it or not, at the end of the year. Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks, as always, really appreciate your time, my friend. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for putting in double duty with us today. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Always a pleasure, Tony. God bless.
Back at you, buddy. Thank you so much. That is Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks. And if you just tuned in there for the second part of the conversation, he mentioned in the first segment that one of the things that he is working on for the new legislative session in 2026 is the establishment of a local reserve police force that can be activated and used when the active force needs support. Maybe not being as, not have to rely so much on federal assistance and having more local assistance in that area. That I can't wait to learn more about that. All right. As I said, we're going to be joined by my co-hosts from the weekend, the Bluff City Outdoors Show in the 3 o'clock hour. And we're going to talk about the latest surrounding the government shutdown next.
Fall is here, and Daniel's Farm and Greenhouse has everything you need to make your yard shine. From vibrant mums and fall blooms to pumpkins, gourds, and seasonal containers that will make your neighbors jealous. Need trees, shrubs, or fresh vegetables? We got you covered with 15 greenhouses of full-quality plants, mulch, soil, and winter protection supplies. Our family knowledgeable staff is here to help you 7 days a week. Daniel's Farm and Greenhouse, family-owned and your outdoor experts. On Juggerman and St. Peters and at danielsfarmandgreenhouse.com.
Is your retirement income at risk if you or your spouse needs nursing home or in-home care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. The cost of long-term care is one of the biggest risks in retirement planning. For many retirees, a single nursing home stay can cause a significant reduction in assets that can permanently reduce your retirement income. Fortunately, there are affordable and flexible options available today that can help you manage the cost of long-term care. Our team can help you address the risks relevant to your retirement, including long-term care. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
For 20 years, Harpo's Chesterfield has been the heart of West County's fun with our award-winning patio, voted best in West County, and excellent sports bar atmosphere. Our mouth-watering menu has made us famous throughout St. Louis. Plus, we've got great drink specials and the friendliest, most energetic staff around. Whether you're dining in or carrying out, Harpo's delivers fun, food, and drinks like no one else. Harpo's Chesterfield. Call 636-537-1970 or visit harposstl.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. In Tel Aviv's Hostage Square early today, people cheering on the news of an agreement to a pause of the fighting between Israel and Hamas and the release hostages. Heritage Foundation military analyst Brett Sadler says it's an historic moment.
It's very important for the families of the hostages. The Middle East could be turning a corner thanks to the leadership of President Trump, which, again, required a lot of forceful, strong, hard power to get the group Hamas, which, after all, is a terrorist organization, to get to this point.
Sadler was interviewed by the Salem Radio Network. There's a plan now to furlough some IRS workers.
The IRS will furlough nearly half of its workforce as part of a new contingency plan, following the failure of the Trump administration and Congress to reach a funding agreement, leading to a second week of a government shutdown. The IRS says that most of its operations are currently closed. The IRS initially planned to stay open using funds from the Democrats' Inflation Reduction Act, but now only about half of the IRS's 75,000 employees will remain working. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Mortgage rates edging downward.
Mortgage buyer Freddie Mac says the average rate on a 30-year mortgage slipped this week to 6.3%. The average rate is now at its lowest level in about a year, matching where it was 2 weeks ago. Mortgage rates have mostly eased since late July in anticipation of a rate cut by the Federal Reserve. The central bank lowered its key short-term interest rate last month for the first time this year. But just because the Fed cuts its rates doesn't mean lower mortgage rates always follow. I'm Alex Vega.
Rough day on Wall Street. At the closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 243 points. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ were both down by about 18 points. More from townhall.com.
I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. You're an adult, right? But you should know gold has increased over 80% in the past 2 years. Yeah, 80%. So if you think stuffing money under your mattress or riding the roller coaster of Wall Street is your retirement plan, well, I wouldn't want to be banking on that strategy. It's time to diversify your savings and retirement assets into physical metals like gold and silver. That's where Advantage Gold comes in. When you call 800-741-GOLD, we'll send you a free gold kit that explains how rolling over your IRA or 401k into gold could not only supercharge your retirement, but maybe even help preserve your sanity. And let's be real, when's the last time you ever heard someone say, "Hey, sell all your gold"? Exactly. Never. The number's simple. 800-741-4653. And if you can spell, even better. That's 800-741-GOLD. Always consult with your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-741-GOLD.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Just another sunny, mild day. The high temperature today about 73 degrees under beautiful sunny skies with low humidity. Very comfortable out there today. Overnight lows dipping down into the 40s tonight. Maybe a little fog in some of the river valleys, and a high tomorrow in the mid-70s up to about 76 degrees. Could see a few showers west of St. Louis during the day on Friday, but that rain chance remains very low. Looks like a warm, dry weekend, too. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Fox News commentary with Jimmy Fallon next.
I'm alpine skier Michaela Schifrin. I've won the most World Cup ski races in history. But what does success mean to me? Success means discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us. And it's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. If you're looking for success, surround yourself with the people who will get you there. If you're an advisor or investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated. Member SIPC and NYSE.
Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Here's Jimmy Fallon.
The thing that's most unique to the Republican Party right now is not our approach to the border. It's not our approach to economics or domestic energy production or the climate or the Middle East or anything in between. It's that we're the only party that's even pretending to care about human lives right now. Okay, and I'm not saying we're pretending, but the Democrats aren't even giving us that. Traditionally in politics, you'd get on TV and you'd say all the right things and we got to look out for these people and everything in between. The Democrats are flat out telling you to attack ICE agents. And I'm just telling you this to any Democrat out there. You're not my enemy. I don't care. But the reality is, if you want to be in charge of this country, you don't have to lead riots against ICE. You don't have to pay people to burn down Tesla dealerships because you don't like Doge. The only thing you really need to do in politics to end up in charge is to just pretend to care about the country you're trying to lead.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
News, analysis, opinion.
Don't always agree, but in love listening to your radio station. This is tyrannical stuff they're doing.
Elections have consequences.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 1019-94.1 News Talk STL. And wouldn't you know it, breaking news regarding local law enforcement right after we get off the phone with a former St. Louis area police officer and Missouri State Rep Justin Sparks. There's breaking news about Sheriff Alfred Montgomery, who is now just this afternoon, just minutes ago, been revealed that he is facing 5 new charges in addition to the legal issues that he is already facing. Before I fill you in on these details, I want to remind you to go and check out, if you haven't heard either of these interviews, Jamie Allman, which is Ron, the Allman Report right before this show, Colombo and Company, every day right here on News Talk STL. Jamie yesterday talked to Sheriff Montgomery, and today talked to new Missouri AG Catherine Hanaway, and a lot of that conversation was specifically about the Attorney General's case against Sheriff Montgomery. So Jamie has been all over this, and there has been, it was great information, I thought, hearing from both of those people on Jamie's show over the last couple of days. So if you haven't heard those, go back and check Jamie's podcast and listen to those. But to get you the latest here, 6 weeks after being indicted on a federal charge for 1 count of deprivation of rights under color of law, St. Louis Sheriff Alfred Montgomery was back in court today and hit with new charges. Sheriff Montgomery faces 4 new counts of witness retaliation and 1 count of witness tampering. So 5 new charges heading the sheriff's way. He was previously accused of ordering the detainment of Tammy Ross, a former St. Louis jail administrator, when the sheriff could not get access to a rape victim that he was trying to interview. He put another member of law enforcement in handcuffs, which is wild. He also, this is also the same man with the golden dice that had deputies, rolling a pair of dice for their own future. So just to remind you of the level of that we're dealing with here. Montgomery has pleaded not guilty to all charges. The judge placed the sheriff under house arrest while this matter is adjudicated. After being taken into custody, the sheriff posted a lengthy message on his Facebook page where he invoked the names of Dr. Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and called on his supporters to remain resilient. So, wow. I'm seeing if I can, this is, like I said, we're just learning all these details on the fly here. So I'm just trying to make sure, I'm just trying to see if there are any other details that we can fill you in on right now. But, yeah, 5 new charges being handed out just minutes ago to St. Louis Sheriff Alfred Montgomery, and we will obviously continue to keep a very close eye on this story and bring you more details as they develop. And I seriously cannot recommend enough. Go back and check out those interviews from the Allman Report that Jamie has done over the last couple of days. All right. I mentioned just a moment ago that there is new developments in the government shutdown. And a lot of this news is thanks to Chuck Schumer, who made some pretty amazing statements on when speaking with a news organization called Punchbowl News. So today, White House and others are slamming Chuck Schumer's what they call disgusting statements on the government shutdown. The White House slammed Senator Chuck Schumer for making disgusting and revealing comments about the ongoing shutdown. Schumer spoke with Punchbowl News, an outlet based in Washington, D.C., and said that as the shutdown continues, things keep getting better for Democrats. He was joyful. Quote, "Every day gets better for us," Schumer told Punchbowl News. Continuing the quote, "It's because we've thought about this long in advance, and we knew that health care would be the focal point on September 30th, and we were prepared for it. The whole theory was threaten us, bamboozle us, and we would submit in a day or two. Republicans have blamed Schumer for the shutdown, saying it was meant to appease the Democratic Party's progressive wing, particularly in his home state of New York, as Zoran Mamdani maintains the lead in the New York mayoral race, and reports continue to swirl around Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the possibility of AOC primarying Chuck Schumer in the next election, though she has not ever declared a Senate bid. She did, however, if you remember, we reported on this about a week ago, she's not in leadership in the House or the Senate, obviously, not in the Senate, but she's not in party leadership. And yet she was on television talking to reporters and at press conferences saying that if Republicans want to negotiate a deal to end the shutdown, that her door was always open. What power does she have to negotiate? Maybe more, maybe more than we know, because of the way that Chuck Schumer is behaving. So Chuck Schumer already used to sort of caving in to that progressive left wing of his party. He's done it multiple times. And not only are those voices loud throughout the country, but as this report points out, he's especially hearing it in his home state of New York, where he has to deal with the possibility of AOC primarying him. And obviously, beyond all logic, Zoran Mamdani continues to lead that mayoral race. So that just gives you a snapshot of what the voters in New York think. And Chuck Schumer has to try to keep all of them happy, of course. So, going on with a news organization and talking about basically how happy you are that the government shutdown is continuing and how good it is for your side is not a good look. White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Johnson responded to Schumer's remarks, saying, quote, Chuck Schumer just said the quiet part out loud. Democrats are gleefully inflicting pain on the American people over their push to give illegal aliens free health care. That is a very difficult statement to argue with. Speaking of the situation with AOC and Chuck's behavior in general, Donald Trump chimed in on that, saying that he expects Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer will retire because Trump doesn't believe that Chuck could beat AOC. And he thinks that rather than losing, having that on his record, his esteemed record, Chuck Schumer will just simply retire from politics before giving AOC an opportunity to beat him in a primary. Trump's comments come as he has continued sparring with Schumer and other Democrats, including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, over the shutdown. As a result, Trump said that Schumer and Jeffries are, quote, holding the entire federal government hostage. However, Trump noted other Democrats like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm struggling here, folks. I don't know what's going on. He said just before the shutdown that Republicans can come to her office and negotiate anytime. That's what I just mentioned a moment ago. Trump said during a cabinet meeting today, quote, she's taking Hakeem Jeffries' place, and Schumer's afraid that she's going to run against him. And right now, I don't know. It can change. Life is crazy, right? But right now, I don't think he can beat anybody. So he would lose in a primary. I would say he'll retire before he loses in a primary. I think Schumer is going to retire because he can't beat anybody. His polls are so bad, unquote. That is amazing that the president of the United States is saying that Chuck Schumer couldn't beat AOC. Now, could he be trolling? Could he just be stoking division and, keeping that story alive? Sure. But I also believe that there is some truth to that the progressive voters in New York are much more likely to support, a young female from their generation over another old white guy like Chuck Schumer. And I could see, I can't believe it, but I see where the president is coming from, and other people that believe that she could beat Chuck Schumer in a Senate election in New York. I think that is a very realistic thought to have right now. And Trump saying, she's basically taken over for Hakeem Jeffries because she is the one on television saying, hey, if you want to, if you want to get to the bottom of this, you want to negotiate a deal, come to my office. Don't go to the party leader's office. Come see me. Pretty amazing stuff. One more story I wanted to touch on here before we are joined by my weekend co-hosts from the Bluff City Outdoors show. And by the way, with them, I want to get into more of these issues, including, I don't know if you're aware of the Saudi Arabia comedy event that happened. There's so much going on in the news with the huge peace deal announced earlier, which we unpacked completely in the 2:00 hour. If you missed any of that, go back and check out the podcast, because obviously a lot of new details have emerged regarding the peace deal in the Middle East. And we dug through a lot of that in the 2:00 hour. So go back and check out the podcast. Don't forget, we put out this show as a podcast right after we get off the air every day on every podcast platform. So wherever you get podcasts, just subscribe to Colombo Company. You won't miss anything. So with that, with what's happening in the Middle East, with the government shutdown, and with all of these other things, this story has kind of floated below the surface, but I think it's wild. Some of the biggest names, huge names, Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, and others just went to Saudi Arabia on what they called a free speech mission, essentially, and then were given instructions on what they couldn't say as they were advocating for free speech. I think it's a wild story. I don't want to get into that when the guys from the Bluff City Outdoor Show, when they get in here in a few minutes. But first, before that, one last update here, and kind of a warning. It's amazing that I'm reading this headline in 2025. Mask mandates are back in California. Luckily, not the whole state, but a county in California, wine country, is beefing up its vaccine recommendations and instituting a mask mandate, citing greater risk of contracting COVID-19 amid the start of the annual flu season. The Sonoma County Department of Public Health's interim health officer, Dr. Karen Smith, issued the order this week requiring anyone entering certain healthcare facilities in the county to wear a mask. Facilities subject to the order include skilled nursing facilities, portions of long-term care facilities where nursing care is provided, acute and non-acute rehabilitation facilities, infusion centers, and dialysis centers, according to the order. A spokesperson for the Sonoma County Department of Health said, quote, "The rationale behind this order is to protect the most vulnerable populations, such as the elderly and cancer patients, and to try to prevent medical staff from getting sick and creating staffing problems for facilities." The mask mandate will run from November 1st of this year, so it's not in place yet. It will be at the end of the month. From November 1st through March 31st of 2026, but the order states that Smith the health department officer can expand the type of facilities subject to it on an as-needed basis. Additionally, the requirement will be put in place annually unless otherwise rescinded. So this will happen every year in that county in California. These mask mandates will go into effect from November 1st through March 31st. And the health officer there, the public health officer, has carte blanche essentially to extend the order, to add the places that have to, will be required to wear masks and things like that. So this is how it starts again. And just when you thought that type of thing was a thing of the past, it's starting to make a comeback in the state of California. So important to know what's happening around the country. And we'll let you know how that develops in the coming days as well. All right. We bring you every Saturday at 11 a.m. the Bluff City Outdoors show. Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, Illinois, open 7 days a week, providing all your fishing needs, all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, and more. And Saturdays at 11, we have the Bluff City Outdoors show right here on News Talk STL, hosted by myself and Mark McMurray from Bluff City Outdoors. Mark is here, so is our regular co-host, local professional fisherman Mike Marfell. And those guys will join me in studio live next.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
When my smile gets old and faded, wait around, I'll smile again. Shouldn't be so complicated. Just this app is absolutely fantastic. Yes, I listen on my phone.
If you have a phone,
You have a radio.
It is awesome.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
and listen anytime,
Anywhere.
Hi, I'm Helene Tobler, culinary nutritionist at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Here we do practical wellness. Dr. Randy and I have a common sense approach to healthcare. My passion is helping our members enjoy better nutrition because food is medicine. We approach problems with a lifestyle foundation and cutting-edge medical tool chest. At Body of Health, it's about being your healthiest you. If you want to experience healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
This is his quote. The Israeli government launched a genocidal war against Palestinians. What? First, if Israel wanted to wipe out all Palestinians, they could have done it. They didn't launch anything until after Hamas attacked, killing more than 1,000 Jews, women and children included, even placing babies in microwaves. So who made the statement that Israel was waging a genocidal war? I doubt you know him, but you will soon hear him being called mayor, New York City Mayor Zoran Mandani. Now, to be fair, he began by admitting Hamas carried out a horrific war crime, but he quickly shifted gears, and 75% of his remarks condemned Jews and praised Hamas, and he refused to condemn Hamas, in fact, calling for a global intifada. He's getting support and recognition from around the world, so much so that New York Governor Hochul, trying to win re-election, endorsed him. One New Yorker said, Zoran's base marches through our streets celebrating the Hamas attacks. He said, you want to see the future? You only need to look at London.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
You and I might have something in common. Back pain. I can tell you where I go for help. Esquire Sports Medicine, the spine of St. Louis. They can put athletes back on the field so they can clearly help us. Esquire Sports Medicine, hands-on chiropractic help on Big Bend, just north of Highway 40. 314-644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. EsquireSportsMedicine.com.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
Today I've got an economic analyst who says the government shutdown really just doesn't matter.
Larry Connors USA.
Now weeknights 6 until 8
on News Talk STL.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Can't beat that. Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. I am Tony Colombo here with producer Ashlyn, and now joining us live in studio are my co-hosts from Saturday morning in the Bluff City Outdoors Show. Mark McMurray, the owner of Bluff City Outdoors, is here. Great to see you.
Hey, it's great to be back in the studio.
CFO. And yeah, that's right. President and
CFO.
Leader for life. And local professional fisherman Mike Marfell.
What's up, Tony?
Well, great to see you guys.
I feel like I was on the show on the drive here. I was yelling at my radio when you had Justin on. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Which part?
Well, just all of it,
Yeah.
really. The Corey Bush stuff for sure.
Man.
But you know who's worse than her is that chick from California that was a senator. Did you see that? Katie Morgan or
they're
something
all-
Morgan?
Katie Hobbs.
No.
Porter.
Porter.
No, she's the one that's she's the front runner to replace
Who
Gavin
threatened
Newsom.
to walk out on that interview because
She did walk out.
No, she never walked out. She just
Oh,
threatened.
she didn't?
She just threatened and then
Oh,
never got it.
she's-
Maybe eventually, but I mean,
I thought she actually left because we played some of that sound yesterday, and she started to do the whole I'm taking my microphone off, I'm standing up and leaving.
But she didn't. I mean, she stayed for quite a bit longer than that. But
And do you remember what she was upset about?
having follow-up questions. I want this to be easy.
Yeah, an interviewer asking follow-up questions.
How dare they?
I mean,
Well, that
are
is tough if you got
kidding
no
me?
original ideas.
And literally said, again, go back to yesterday's show, check out the podcast, you can hear the sound. She literally said, I came here for
Good time.
I'm not quoting directly here, but it's very close to this. She said, I came here for a fun. Is she on? Yeah.
Yeah, she's on
They're
right
all-
now.
Yeah, that's how it works. They listen. I'm telling you.
She's not an
It
attractive
happens
lady.
all the time. I talk about something, and all of a sudden you see it on the television. They're monitoring. That she
I'm on a
said,
list.
I'm here for a friendly conversation about the topics on that list.
Yep.
Which means, Mark, that there's a list. There's not supposed to be a list.
Yeah. So she was there basically to make sure she got her propaganda out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And was Mike, it was expecting the reporter to
Softball.
do her job of endorsing and just going along.
But that
with them.
reporter is an investigative reporter.
I know.
And she did every candidate, and she had the exact same 9 questions.
Yeah.
But when you don't answer them,
right,
she's got to follow up.
Follow-up
It's
questions
pretty
are a part of
simple.
every
The
interview.
question was like, do you need Trump supporters? Because there's 40% in the state.
Yeah.
It's a real easy answer, right? I'm going to do whatever I can for all my constituents.
And in California,
It's over.
And in
The next question.
California,
Yep,
the general election can be Democrat and Democrat. They
Right.
do the open primary process. So it's the top 2 vote getters. So the idea, because she kind of made a mockery of when she said, there was Donald Trump got 40% of the vote in California and Kamala Harris got 60%. And she said, what you're going to need. you're going to need the part of that 40% if you want to be governor. And Katie Porter looked at her or Karen Porter, whatever, Porter's her last name, looked at her, and said, like she didn't know how to do the math. She was like,
much like Cory Bush.
Why would I need any of them? Why would I need any of those disgusting people if I, and you could see that rationale if it was elections like in Missouri and where we're used to, where in the general, it's Democrat versus Republican, but that's not the case there. If she's going against another Democrat, Mark, she is going to
need them. In all honesty, it's probably going to be that.
Yes.
And I hope that is what costs her.
Yeah.
Because, all the people that voted for Trump vote against her.
The problem is whoever else.
They're both going to be bad.
They're all going to be bad, but I would like her to pay the price for her stupidity.
As we know locally, there is levels of badness with Cory Bush.
Yeah, we were just talking about, if you missed anything in that 2:00 hour, we unpacked and completely got the update on the peace agreement in the Middle East. And we talked about Cory Bush, and we talked about local issues with Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks. If you missed any of that, go back and check it out on the podcast, because we put this show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day on basically every podcast platform. So just subscribe to Colombo Company on your favorite podcast platform, and you'll never miss anything that happens here on the show. That also goes for the Bluff City Outdoors show. I do want to ask you guys about some issues of the day.
Yeah,
Mark,
get my blood pressure down a little bit.
First, I want to just congratulate you and thank you for another great Alton Catfish Classic last weekend on the Alton Fairgrounds. Just another super great time, an awesome event, a great tournament. I wish we had this week's weather.
Oh, you aren't kidding.
But even though it was hot, it was still an amazing day.
Yeah, it turned out well. It's really, we moved it to October to get to the cooler, better, colder water, and then it didn't matter.
Right. As soon as the tournament ended, the temperatures dropped.
But what I liked seeing though was we had a great crowd, spectator crowd. We were a little worried about that since it wasn't part of the expo this year, but we had the same crowd we've had in the past.
Absolutely.
And it's just a little more easy to put on when you didn't have all that other stuff.
Parking was much easier.
Parking was much better.
It sure was. Yeah. To your point, being there and you moving it back a month allowed me to be a part of the tournament, a bigger part of the tournament, like I had been in the past. But its original date was always on the same weekend as my daughter's birthday. So I was always trying to do two things at once. So I was able to stay again. I hadn't been able to do that in several years, stay and be a part of the entire event. So, I was there looking at that crowd all day, but it really hit me when I posted a couple pictures on Twitter. And one of them was of my son, James, posing with the championship trophy. And the angle was we're standing on stage, and, just the background was the amphitheater.
It was the crowd, yeah.
And I remember looking at the picture and pausing and just looking at the crowd behind him and going, man, there's a lot of people there.
Yeah, it was big. Yeah, we had a good crowd. It was great.
And we still saw some big fish. I know that in the past, the Classic has seen, triple digit fish, 100-pound fish. We didn't get that, but 72-pound big fish, 140-pound limit was the winners. There was some big fish in the holding tank. The kids, including my son, were just surrounding all day long. So maybe the heat did lower some of those numbers, but it really showed you still.
And it only lowered it by one day.
Yeah.
Because we did weigh a guy pre-fishing, he caught a 105.
Yeah, right.
Which we weighed at the shop the day before.
Yeah.
So.
But it really showed you that even though the weather didn't totally cooperate, that area, our area here in St. Louis, is a great fishery with some big fish.
Yeah.
And just the results of that tournament just prove that.
Yeah, it just keeps, it's a great tournament. Now we're looking at next year's date. We're looking at moving it. We really want to get, that's 3 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
The water was too low. We couldn't use the Maple Island ramp, which is our primary ramp when we can use it. And so we're going to try, looks like maybe moving it to March next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gotcha. Moving into the spring. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's Alex, who runs the Twisted Cat circuit, his number one attended tournament on his whole series this year was his Alton Twisted Cats at last weekend of March. He had 82 boats. So.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, so we will. So my birthday's in March, so we went from my daughter's birthday to my birthday. But
you can do
if
whatever
it's my
you want.
birthday, I can be there the whole tournament.
Want.
You dang right I can. I can be there for the whole thing on my birthday. And tune in this week to the Bluff City Outdoors show to hear us talk to the winners, which are guys that had competed before. And even did they both win in the past, or was one of them?
John Jameson had been on a winning team before. That was
incredible.
Kevin Parks' first time.
Yeah, that is incredible that that one of the guys on the winning team had won the tournament.
You got two of those, right? There's
two
teams that have won
another
twice.
team.
Wow.
Chris Stout and I can't remember the guy's name, but their team had actually won it twice.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. Well, we talked to the winners there at the tournament after the victory last week. We're going to play that interview for you this week and some other interviews from the event. And as we do every week, we'll give you this week's current fishing report. We'll talk about what's going on with fishing conditions around our area, hunting conditions as well, with archery season underway and in full swing in both Missouri and Illinois. So join us this Saturday morning and every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. for the Bluff City Outdoors show. We have a couple minutes left. We don't talk any politics. Every now and then, maybe a little fun one slips in.
Yeah, nothing
but we
too
don't.
serious.
We never talk news and politics.
Just
very intentionally.
Just a break.
On the Bluff City Outdoors show. But when you guys are here, we're able to do a little bit of that sometimes. And I wanted to ask you guys if you had even seen this. Are you aware of the comedy event that just happened in Saudi Arabia?
I am.
With
Bill
some
Burr,
of the biggest names in comedy.
Louis C.K.,
Chappelle, Dave Chappelle,
Bill Burr,
Tim Dillon,
Bill
Burr. Yep,
that's surprising.
Huge names in comedy, and it for me, like Bill Burr, he lost the plot. He lost the plot a couple of years ago.
I agree.
He
still a funny dude, but
he's still a funny dude. But I put him in the category of he didn't go there as quickly. But I put him in the category of Howard Stern and Jimmy Kimmel, of people who just completely flipped on their values. So I'm a little bit more used to
They all work
him.
for giant corporations.
Right.
That's the common
but Dave Chappelle, of all people, coming back and saying it's easier to speak freely in Saudi Arabia than it is here in the United States after working this event where they were literally handed a contract that told them the things that they couldn't talk about while on stage in Saudi Arabia. And they all want to come back here and say, "Oh, we went over there because we're, advocating for free speech." And
it's disgusting.
It's just a lie.
Yeah,
and
try
Dave
talking about the
Chappelle.
kingdom over there.
Yeah.
And see how that works.
Yeah,
out.
What a terrible look for
is.
some of the biggest comedians in the country.
I'm most disappointed about Dave and Tim Dillon. They seem like the type
I
that would.
totally agree.
It's not like Dave needs the money.
You know who came through again? Shane Gillis. Turned him down.
Yeah.
Turned them down and blasted the people that went.
Yeah.
Saying you're hypocrites. You're saying that you're fighting for free speech, but you go over there and you're handed a list of things that you can't talk about. And then you come back here and act like it was better over there than it is in the United States, Mark. It's wild.
Well, and I fully expect them, to move there and, live in that culture, seeing as it's so much better.
Yeah,
and
right.
Let's see if that happens.
Right.
I don't think it will.
No. Yeah. And unfortunately, and I've never called for a boycott of anything.
No.
I'm not that person, but I do like what would happen with Bud Light at Target and other, things in the past. You do reap what you sow, and I am totally fine with that. The one thing about this is because this story breaks at a time where the government is shut down, there's a peace deal in the Middle East. I don't think very many people know about this. I don't know that this is going to have any lasting effects on these guys, because I don't think that anybody really knows this story.
That could be. I know Megyn Kelly's talked about it. There's a few other people. I think it'll get out there.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say Shane Gillis, that's why people my son's age from like 19 to 25 love Shane Gillis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they grew up being told all this crap through COVID. And then
now imagine if your son in that generation, if 10 years from now, Shane Gillis does something like this. That's how I feel about Bill Burr. Like, what happened to you, man?
Yeah.
And Dave Chappelle.
Working for Disney. That's what happened to him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good point. I forgot he's on that Star Wars. He's on that goofy Star Wars show. So, yeah, just unbelievable that that they can advocate that or try to tell people that they're over there for free speech after getting that.
With a list of can't do's.
They got a bag. That's why they went.
That's what's
Saudi
disappointing.
Arabia-
They've all got a bag.
Yeah.
already.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. That's Mike Marfell. Also, Mark McMurray from Bluff City Outdoors. Bluff City Outdoors open 7 days a week. And Alton, about a mile east of Fast Eddie's there on East Broadway. Again, all your fishing needs, all your hunting, bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, and more every day at Bluff City Outdoors. Also, the state-of-the-art archery range is open for you to shoot in every day. And join us Saturday morning at 11 a.m. for the Bluff City Outdoors show. That's going to do it for Colombo & Company. We will be back tomorrow at 2. In the meantime, keep it here for the O'Reilly Report next, then the Tim Jones Chris Art Show.
Hey, it's Jamie Allman here for The Barn in beautiful Columbia, Illinois, offering a unique experience with an upscale feel that's sure to make your visit unforgettable. More than 100 different bourbons, 30 vodkas, plus an expansive outdoor patio, upstairs banquet facility, seating up to 50. You can reserve that. Call for rates. Live music every Friday and Saturday. Last